Yesterday we did adding and subtracting. Today we're going to do multiplying and dividing. So up here on the board, you're going to notice our very first problem. We're going to multiply the 7.2 by the negative 0.2. And so in order to do this, you do not line the decimals up. Okay? We have a two-digit number here with the 7 and the 2. Okay? And so what we're going to do is we're just going to go ahead and write the problem like that. I know they lined up this time, but they don't have to line up. Okay, so example, if I would have had 0.72 times 0.2, they wouldn't have lined up. So now we're just going to go ahead and multiply like the decimals aren't there. If we multiply like the decimals aren't there, I start with the 2. And I take 2 times 2, which is 4. And then I take 2 times 7, which is 14. Now the 0 here, you don't have to multiply. I mean, you could if you wanted, but you don't need to multiply by the 0. You can just go ahead and stop now. And so the next step is to count how many decimal places you have. How many decimal places do I have in the problem? 2. So I'm going to move this decimal over 2 places. And the final thing I'm going to do is check the sign. What should the sign of my answer be? Negative, because I have a positive times a negative. So the answer is actually negative 1.44. With that in mind, I want you to go ahead and do this problem right here. Okay, negative 5.4 times 0.05. Okay, so let's go ahead and see what you got. And the answer, negative 0.27. Okay. So it looks like up here, our first 4, you were close, we just didn't count the decimals right. Okay, we also had a 0.270 here that just forgot a sign. So for the most part, it looks like we did the multiplication right. We just made a step at the end that was wrong. Okay, and so you should have had 5.4 times 0.05. Okay, so 0, carry your 2, you get 27. So now if we count, I have 1, 2, 3. All right, so here's my decimal. I'm going to move that 3 spaces. Final step is to check what sign you should have. Your sign should be negative because it's a negative times a positive. So that's where it comes from. All right, let's look at this next one, division. Okay, so I'm going to take negative 23.94 and I'm going to divide it by negative 10.5. So if you remember how division works, okay, the first number is what goes, okay, kind of in, some people say the house, okay, this is actually called the dividend, all right, and the second number is called the divisor. So in order to divide, what you need to do is you need to move that decimal in the divisor, because the divisor should have no decimals. So I'm going to move that decimal 1 spot. Now when I move that decimal 1 spot, what do I need to do? Move the other one 1 spot. So my new decimal is going to be right here. So now I need to think, I've got the number 105 as my divisor. Does 105 go into 2? Does it go into 23? Does it go into 239? Yes, how many times? 2. So now I'm going to take 2 times 5, which is 10. I'm going to go ahead and carry the 1. 2 times 0 is 0 times 1. And then 2 times 1 is 2, which some of you have already said 210. That's great. What do you do now? Subtract. So if I subtract here, I get 9, 2, and you get 0. I also need to bring down the 4 during this step as well. So now I need to think, 105 goes into 294 how many times? 2 again, and we already know from the previous time that that is 210. So now what do you need to do? Subtract. When I subtract, I get 84. I'm going to go ahead and bring down a 0. And now I need to think 105 goes into 840 how many times? Okay, let's see, 8. 8 times 5 is 40. So 8 times 0 is 0, but I've carried the 4. And then 8 times 1 is 8. That does in fact match. We're done. And so our answer, last thing you need to check is the sign. So I have a negative divided by a negative, which is a positive, so your answer is 2.28. All right, I've got one for you to try now. Okay. So using, when you get done, go ahead and type in the answer on your expressions. Let's try 2 times 7. 14, so it's still a little bit different. And that one's going to be a little bit different. Let's try to have some time to do it. Let's see how much that's going to be. So try here. So then, oh, that's 16, because you got to do 4 first. So 8 times 4 is. All right, 2.85. Good job. Looks like we were kind of close here with the 2.8. Okay, we were really close here with the 0.285. Okay, biggest thing, you got to be careful how you do these, okay? Got to take your time. All right, so now we're going to multiply fractions. So when you multiply fractions, I like to think of there as a cross. Now, one of the things about fractions is you can multiply anywhere on those diagonals. Okay, I mean you can cancel, sorry, not multiply, but you can cancel on any of those diagonals. And so if I look at those diagonals on the first one, the 2 and the 3 and the 1 and 5, can I cancel anything out? Is there anything in common? No, so I'm just going to do straight multiplication. I'm just going to take 2 times 1, which is, over 5 times 3, which is, there you go, and there's your answer. Okay, pretty straightforward. What will the answer to the bottom number be? Or the bottom problem, sorry. What is it? No, what's the answer going to be to this one? 7 out of what? Oh, over what? 36. Good. Okay, once again, you can't cancel on the diagonals, so you just do a straight multiplication, and you get 7 over 36. So let's look at this one. This one's a little different because instead of it being 2 fractions, we've actually got a fraction and a mixed number. Ideas as to what to do? Make it into an improper. That's right, change it. So I've got 1/4. I'm going to take that times. Remember how I make this into an improper? I take 6 times 3, and then I add 5. So 6 times 3 plus 5 is 23 over 6. So now I'm looking along the diagonals. Can I cancel anything between the 1 and the 6? 4 and the 23? Nope. So 1 times 23 is 6 times 4? There you go. Okay, pretty straightforward. Division. Okay, this for some reason we always seem to make mistakes on, so it's important we get this down. With division, the first term always stays the same. You never switch that first term. Okay. The only time you would ever switch it is if it would be a mixed number. You would have to convert that to an improper. So now with division, you always change the sign. So we're going to change to multiplication. But you've also got to change something else. And you've got to change the second fraction. You've got to flip it. Okay. So remember, division means multiplying by the reciprocal or multiplying by the opposite. Something to that effect. Can you cancel anything on the diagonals? Nope, so your answer is 2/3. And you guys have done this a ton. I mean, this should be nothing new. You guys have been doing this for a good grade, like 3 or 4 years. Yeah. Somebody have a question? Okay. Let's look at this next one. So I have 3/8 divided by 2/3. What really is this problem? 3/8 times 3 over 2. Very good. Notice I switch the sign and I switch the second fraction. When I multiply, what do I get? 9 over 16. Ooh, now we got to throw mixed numbers in there. So, first thing, what is 3/4 divided by? 5 over 2. Good. So then now, what's my problem really? 3/4 times 2/5. Can I cancel anything on the diagonals? Yep. What diagonal? The 4 and the 2. What goes into both? 2. 2 goes into 2. 2 goes into 4. So your answer is 3 over 10. Now, if you didn't see that to cancel, what's going to end up happening is you would have gotten the number 6/20, in which case you would have had to reduce it. So it's one of those things, if you forget and you miss it, it's okay. You'll be able to pick it up in the answer. It just makes it a little easier if you remember to do that early on. Really, what's this problem going to be? 1/5. Yep, negative 10/3. Now it doesn't matter which one the negative goes with. It does matter though when you answer, and we'll talk about that. Can you cancel anything? Yep, what? 5, yep, 5 goes into 5. 5 goes into 10. Twice. So my answer is actually Negative 2/3. Now, one of the things about negatives is you never put a negative in the denominator. Your negative goes with the numerator, or it goes even with the fraction bar, but it never goes in the denominator. So I don't care if you've got a -3 in the denominator, you don't put that in your answer. Okay, there. You put it even with the fraction bar or in the numerator. All right, there's your assignment. P19, we're still in the P's section. Okay, P19, 2 through 46, the evens.